James is doing project number 2 in the storytelling manual from the Advanced Communicator series. Let's Get Personal requires the storyteller to create and tell an original story based on a personal experience. Matthew will use this project to tell the story of his lifelong battle with insecurity. He hopes to inspire people to rise above their own insecurities and do it afraid. Come take a look inside the mind of a man that most people perceive as confident and competent despite his raging doubts to the contrary. Matthew James.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Good morning. It's good to be with you today. I speak in public all the time, and it always surprises me when I get feedback from people that lets me know they perceive me as confident and competent because I don't at all perceive myself that way. My battle with insecurity goes all the way back to my childhood, and I have been waiting to outgrow it ever since. I have come to find out that insecurity is not something you outgrow. Insecurity is something you have to kill. And I want to tell you my story about the journey of that realization and those experiences this morning. When I was a kid, my mother insisted, God bless her, on keeping me enrolled in a private Christian school. And because she worked part-time to make that a reality, I was usually the first student ever dropped off. Normally, it was dark when I arrived. And I can remember hating the drop-off with every fiber of my little person. I remember one morning in particular when I was the first human being on the campus. I don't know exactly how that worked out, but I remember sitting in the inside corner of the outside of the vestibule, crying by myself when a dog that I had never seen before suddenly wandered up. And I was so happy to see that dog. I hugged him, and I cried over him, and I told him that I needed him, and I was glad he was there. He was like a ray of sunshine, because I sat there afraid of what was coming. I was afraid of being teased, which always happened. I was afraid of being surprised by being unprepared in my assignments. I was afraid of X factors and unknowns in the multiplied hundreds because it just seemed that there was always something to be afraid of. I hated the drop-off. And I was haunted by forgetfulness. I was constantly forgetting things left and right. And so it only made sense to me, it only was inevitable to me to understand or suppose that my mom would also be forgetful. And I lived in the absolute terror that she would forget to come pick me up. Every morning that she dropped me off, I would leave a note on the dashboard of her car, that said, "Don't forget Matthew." And it was never enough for my troubled heart that she always showed up. It was never enough for me that she never forgot. It was never enough for the aching hole in my insecure heart that she was exemplary as a mom ought to be in every way. Every afternoon she arrived, the first thing I wanted to do when I sat in the passenger seat of that front of the car was, "Where is my note?" It wasn't enough that she came. I wanted to know that she came because of something that I did. What a little control freak. I don't understand exactly how all of that works, but I was haunted by that forgetfulness because I forgot stuff all the time. Moving forward into my adolescent life, those childhood terrors turned into courtship termites. They nearly ate my romance with my present wife, my wife who is married to me now. It nearly ate that romance out from the inside because I was racked with jealousy. When she looked good, I knew everybody else noticed too. I couldn't enjoy her beauty. I couldn't enjoy her attractiveness because I was afraid it presented a threat to what I perceived as mine. when we went away to college, it seemed like a foregone conclusion that I was going to lose her. Because I had been on the way into the ministry for a long time, and I had been perceived as a preacher boy for a long time. We're going to a Christian university where preacher boys are a dime a dozen. How many of them are going to be better looking than I am? How many of them are going to have more money than I am? How many of them are going to... Well, they all had a better car than I did, I'll guarantee you that. How many ways am I going to be threatened? And the fears were like termites eating away at our courtship. Despite all of my insecurities and all of my raging jealousies, to her credit, she was never driven away. And despite the fact that she stayed with me for so long, those insecurities were still present. Fast forwarding into my career and my vocation as a minister, that insecurity turned into career terminators. And I began to realize after a long time in my career that rather than leading, rather than actually calling plays, I was really just taking cues. My perception of leadership was finding out where people wanted to go and taking them there. Rather than setting a course, setting a direction as a leader ought to do. And in terms of elevating the standards of professionalism and other kinds of things, it was really impossible for me to challenge people from my position of insecurity. Friends, I wish we were talking about something that happens a decade ago. But over the past few years, God has been leading me to confront my insecurities in ways that have been quite substantial. The first thing was realizing the problem. And that came a long time ago when I was in some different oratorical contests, and I realized that speakers can't apologize for speaking. Nobody wants to hear an insecure speaker who apologizes for his message or his presence. I also learned that umpires can't apologize for umpiring. I actually was an umpire during my graduate school days, and as I was beginning in that vocation somewhat, I remember standing behind home plate, watching a pitch come across the plate, and then knowing it was my turn to make a call, and I said, "Strike?" And I remember my mentor coming over and saying, "Man, you got to sell the call." Umpires can't apologize for umpiring, and leaders can't apologize for leading. Insecurity has to be slain. It has to be killed. And I came to name it. I named it with what I call my I can't handcuffs. When every thought, when every idea is dominated by I can't, I am here to tell you that dreaming becomes impossible. I'm here to tell you that leading becomes impractical. And standing becomes imponderable. You just can't imagine yourself standing your ground and defending a righteous position when you're wearing I can't handcuffs. The answer to it is to replace I can't handcuffs with Christ can liberty. Paul says in Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And the key to that is seeing life through the eyes that Jesus speaks into your life. Not long ago, I had an experience of this that really graphically illustrated this when I saw a mom and her young son by the railroad tracks with a train approaching and the mom going bananas about the oncoming train. I had never seen a young mom do anything like that before, but it was all because she was looking at the train through her son's eyes. Can you appreciate what it means to look at life through God's eyes? Everywhere the New Testament is inviting us to do that. And if you can figure that out, you can replace your I can't handcuffs with Christ can liberty. Madam Toastmaster.